we're going to start things off with a bit of a talk about the corruption, the web of corruption surrounding the Trudeau Foundation. So the Pierre Elliott Trudeau Foundation has been at the center of this Chinese election interference scandal that started last month because of a large donation that came from the Chinese Communist Party laundered through a Chinese businessman here in Canada back in 2015. Earlier this week, the entire Trudeau Foundation board resigned. The official reason provided by the foundation was because it had become politicized and it made it impossible to continue with the status quo. But it looks a lot more like the rats fleeing a sinking ship to me. So first off, what do you think of this news, Maxim?
But we must speak about it because, as you just said, the board at the same time giving their resignation, there's something that we don't know about that foundation. We know that we taxpayers gave money in the early 2000. I believe that the government gave to that foundation about $125 million. And we must know where the money is going, what is happening, and what is the relation with the foundation and the Chinese Communist Party. We need to have a real independent investigation on that foundation. I don't know what will happen in the near future, but what I know, it's that foundation looks to me like a slush fund for the Trudeau family, because if you read at the bylaws of the foundation, the Trudeau family will have their members, part of the family, on the board of the foundation. And Justin Trudeau was on the foundation before being a politician. After that, Alexandre Trudeau was on the board. So something is happening in that foundation, and I believe that these people who were at the board and director of that foundation decided together, we don't want to be part of the next step of that, the next phase in that foundation. I don't know what it will be, but I don't trust what is happening there.
Yeah. And you mentioned there should be an independent investigation. You're not the only one that feels that way. In fact, it seems, based on reports from La Presse and Radio-Canada over the last few days, that even some of these board members were pushing for an independent investigation, and that might have been a cause of some of these resignations.
Oh, yeah.
According to La Presse, some of these board members speaking anonymously to the press, the official statement was a bunch of lies. Another board member suggested that some of the board members had been subjected to intimidating and threatening behavior. It seems from these reports that some of the members were pushing for or demanding an independent investigation. And further, they wanted all board members who were part of the board when the Chinese donation was received to be recused from this process. So this pushing seems to have destabilized things and resulted in these mass resignations. So, like, where do you think the truth lies between this official statement and what we're hearing in the news through?
I believe it's like a little bit COVID-19. We will know the truth in the next coming months. But that being said, I don't. That donation, all that started with that donation from the Communist Chinese Party. That donation happened in 2015. So, and the news about that is they're not able to reimburse the donor.
Yeah.
It's crazy, So now that that's the Chinese Communist Party who decided to give money to that foundation to influence the Trudeau government.
Yeah.
And now you want to reimburse, and you try to find the corporation. There's nobody there. You try to find a person. There's nobody there. So it's impossible for you to reimburse the donor. That because the donor was not the real one. The real one was the Chinese Communist Party.
Exactly. And I mean, even regardless of if it did influence the Trudeau government, just the fact that there are all these question marks really destabilizes things, right? We don't know if it influenced things. It undermines his credibility. I do want to give our viewers a bit of background on what exactly the Trudeau Foundation is, because I don't think most people are familiar with it. So it was a charity founded back in 2002, just shortly after Trudeau Sr. passed away. As Maxim mentioned a bit earlier, it was started up with $125 million grant from the Chrétien Liberal government to start up this organization to compete with the Rhodes Scholarship Program down in the United States. So they were giving scholarships and grants to students.
If I may add to that, that is happening also in the US. When you have a former president, usually, the foundation that are there for that president, they're going to have a library for him, but the money is coming from the private sector. It's not coming from the US government. Now, the Chrétien government decided, with the opposition also, at that time, the opposition approved that. The fake conservative, they voted for that. Use taxpayers' money for that foundation. If the supporters or fans of Pierre-Elliott Trudeau want a foundation for him, they can pay for it. That's what is happening in the US. Fan of Ronald Reagan wanted to have something after his presidency. They gave money and they create a foundation on the name for Ronald Reagan or other president. So what I don't like, it's all that started. It started by money coming from us. And after that, special privilege to the Trudeau family. If you look at the foundation for Ronald Reagan in the state, you don't have any family members part of that. It's coming from a third party, independent. Now it is not. You have the family that can have a say for the money, and I think you have good numbers about where the money is going.
Yeah, exactly. That's something that I found in this research. We have a graph. Can we pull that up? I found this remarkably interesting. So the organization was founded in 2002. This graph starts in 2008. So between 2002 and 2008, the organization struggled to do any sort of independent fundraising. They were raising less than $2,000 a year. $2,000 a year. It's unbelievably low. For context, we raised $190,000 just last month alone. But right in 2008, when Justin Trudeau first got elected to Parliament, then we start seeing these donations increase. Between 2009 to 2012, we're seeing about $60,000 coming into the foundation. Then in 2013, when Justin Trudeau becomes leader of the Liberal Party, we see a large spike. And then 2015, when he becomes leader of the country, Prime Minister of Canada, we see even a bigger spike. And more disturbingly, it's become majority foreign donations.
So that's the blue. The blue, that's the foreign. Yeah,
exactly.
So there's something there. Just that graph is telling us that people who were giving to that foundation, that was their goal and their intention was to influence Trudeau and the Trudeau government.
Yeah, exactly. It's unclear whether or not it did influence Trudeau, but clearly that's the intention of these donors coming in. Like it lines too well up with Justin's political career. Clearly, people are seeking to buy influence within the government. Regardless of what he says about there's no intersection between me and the foundation named after my family.
It's the last one was his brother Alexandre. So Justin is not speaking with Alexandre about that. No. It's a family matter.
Yeah. So exactly, and even more concerning, I think we have another screenshot here from the Sun article. Justin, exactly. The money spent. So Brian Lilly questions: is the Trudeau Foundation even necessary? And it's found that only the same amount that was spent on scholarship programs was spent on wages, office expenses, despite sitting on a $144 million pile of cash. A substantial amount of that came from the government 20 years ago. They're sitting on a big hoard of money, and they're paying out only $2.4 million a year in grants and scholarships, while spending the exact same amount on wages that are going to Trudeau family members.
So for our viewers, they must understand, when you're a foundation, you raise money for a cause, and usually your administrative fees, the maximum, if you know how a foundation is working, the maximum in your administrative fees must be 20%. So now it's 50%. If you look at that, 50% is going to the cost of that foundation, and 50% is going to scholarship. The maximum must be 20%. So, all these salaries, I'm pretty sure that, you had people around the family that receive money and salary from that foundation. But I just want to let know to our viewers also, I did run in my riding 100K in one day in 12 hours, and my goal was to raise money for a food bank. And I said 100% of the money will go to the food bank. So we raised $165,000, but the cost of that event for a day was, I don't remember, maybe 5 to 10K. I decided to pay that personally because I said all the money that you're giving for my run, every penny will go to the food bank. So I didn't want to have any administrative fees as the organization of an event to raise money for a food bank. Usually it's 20%. Now here it's 50%.
Yeah, it's absurd. And not to mention, while they just sat on this big pile of cash, like what's the point of this? This organization, is it to save money to support the Trudeau family indefinitely, or is it to, support students and academia? It's a bit absurd, and it's definitely suspect. That's pretty much all I wanted to cover on the Trudeau Foundation. We'll have to watch as more and more stuff comes out. I'm sure there'll be more stories, considering that the board members themselves are speaking out against
maybe
this.
we'll have an independent investigation on that.
Yes,
we
exactly.
Don't know.
Not to mention, David Johnston, the former member of the foundation. He's stepped down at the end of March before these other resignations. Is the one that's supposed to look into these interference allegations, at the center of which was the organization that he was a part of when the donation was received. The conflicts of interest are just boundless.
All there.
It's unbelievable.
But we know with Trudeau and conflict of interest, it's going together. For him, there's no conflict of interest.
He can do whatever he wants. He's the Teflon man, and nothing can stick to him.